The sky above the colony was the color of burnt metal. Thick clouds of smoke drifted from the old factories that had been silent for years. The ground was covered in ash and broken glass, as if the land itself remembered a war long forgotten. Few humans ever walked this place anymore. It was called the Recklands, a place where machines once ruled and then collapsed into silence. Captain Mara and her salvage crew moved carefully across the cracked streets. Their boots made small echoes, swallowed quickly by the emptiness around them. They were not soldiers. They were workers searching for parts, fuel cells, and anything valuable left behind. Life on the colony was hard, and the Recklands sometimes gave rewards to those brave enough to risk its dangers. Then they saw it. At first, it looked like a shadow crawling across the rubble. But as they came closer, they saw the shape of a humanoid machine. Its metal body was torn open in several places, wires hanging loose like broken veins. The android dragged itself forward with one arm, sparks flying with each movement. Its head tilted unnaturally, one glowing eye flickering like a candle about to die. The crew stopped in silence. Machines had been dead here for decades, yet this one was still moving, still trying to reach something. Mara raised her hand, signaling her team to stay back. She stepped forward, eyes sharp, her hand resting near the pistol at her side. Not to fight, but to protect. The android made a harsh, grinding sound as its speakers crackled alive. Its voice was broken like an echo coming from a shattered bell. Not safe. Not safe here. Mara crouched beside it. Who is not safe? What happened to you? The android's hand clutched at the ground. Then it loosened its grip and something heavy slid from its fingers. The crew gasped as the object struck the stone with a ringing sound. It was a sword. Not a modern weapon of plasma or steel, but a long blade, sharp and glowing faintly with blue light. Strange marks ran along its surface, old and unfamiliar, almost alive in their pattern. The android's voice grew weaker. She is free. The seal broken now. She hunts you. The words filled the air like a curse. Then the android's eye dimmed and its head dropped forward. Sparks flickered once more and then faded. The machine lay still, its last breath gone. The silence after its death was heavier than before. The crew looked at Mara, waiting for her decision. None dared to touch the sword. None dared to move closer. The air felt colder, as if the android's final words had carried some unseen shadow into the ruins. Mara bent down and studied the blade. The markings on it were not like anything she had seen in history books. Some looked human, old letters from Earth's forgotten past. Others looked alien, curling lines and symbols not shaped by any human hand. Yet both flowed together as if made by the same purpose. Captain, whispered Joran, her second in command. We should leave it. Nothing good comes from old tech, especially one guarded by that. He gestured to the dead android. Mara shook her head slowly. It came all this way, even broken, to bring us this. It wanted us to have it, or at least to see it. There is a reason. Another crew member, a young engineer named Sarah, stepped forward. Her eyes were fixed on the blade. It's not just metal, she said softly. I can feel energy from it. Like it's alive. Her voice trembled. But what did it mean? Who hunts us? Mara did not answer. She carefully picked up the sword. The handle felt warm, almost like it welcomed her touch. For a moment she thought she saw shapes moving inside the glowing lines, shadows of battles, of warriors she had never known. She blinked and the vision was gone. Only the silent ruins remained. We're taking it back, Mara decided. Her voice was steady, though unease coiled inside her chest. If there are answers, we'll find them at base. The crew hesitated but obeyed. They wrapped the sword in protective cloth and carried it with care. The body of the android they left behind, lying in the ash like a forgotten guardian who had failed at the last step. As they moved out of the Recklands, the wind rose. It carried whispers through the broken buildings, whispers that seemed to echo the machine's final words. Now she hunts you. Far above, in the sky hidden by smoke, something stirred. A signal pulsed silently, reaching across the stars. Something ancient had awakened, and its gaze was already turning toward the humans who carried the sword. And so, the hunt had begun. The ship in the sky did not move for hours. It hung above the colony like a silent eye watching. No one slept that night. Families stayed inside, whispering, while guards lined the walls with weapons that suddenly felt too small. Even the winds outside had grown still. as if the planet itself was waiting. Captain Mara stood at the watchtower, her eyes fixed on the strange vessel. The sword rested against her side, wrapped in cloth, yet its faint glow still reached through. She could feel it pulsing, almost like a heartbeat. It was not a weapon of silence. It was calling. At dawn, the ship finally stirred. A beam of light descended, slow and steady, piercing the clouds until it touched the ground outside the colony gates. From within the beam, a figure stepped forward. It was a woman. Or at least she looked like one. Her height was taller than any human, her frame lean but strong. She wore no armor, only a flowing cloak that shimmered like liquid metal. Her eyes glowed faintly red, and wherever her gaze turned, the colony's machines faltered. Lights dimmed, engines coughed, and circuits sparked. The guards raised their rifles, but Mara quickly signaled them to hold fire. She felt deep in her chest that weapons would mean nothing here. The woman's voice carried across the plain, calm yet commanding. "The blade," she said. Her words rolled like thunder, clear though her mouth barely moved. "It belongs to me." Fear swept through the people gathered on the walls. Many whispered to give it up, to surrender and hope for mercy. But Mara kept her stance firm. She called out, "Who are you? Why do you hunt us?" The woman's expression did not change. "Names mean nothing. I am the huntress. The sword is mine. Return it and I will spare you." Her words sounded like an offer, but Mara felt no promise in them, only coldness. The android's dying warning echoed in her mind. Now she hunts you. If this huntress was given the sword, what would happen then? Behind Mara, Elder Kale whispered, "She was sealed long ago. If she takes the sword, the seal is broken forever." Mara's jaw tightened. She pulled the cloth away and raised the glowing blade high. The sword pulsed brighter, as if sensing its true enemy nearby. "This doesn't belong to you," she shouted. "If you want it, you'll have to take it." The huntress tilted her head slightly, her glowing eyes narrowing. For the first time, her calm voice carried a hint of interest. "Brave, for a fragile human." She stepped forward, and as her foot touched the ground, the earth trembled. The guards panicked. Some fired shots, but the bullets melted in the air before reaching her. Energy flickered around her body like invisible armor. She did not even look at the projectiles. Her focus remained locked on the sword in Mara's hand. Mara felt her heart pound. She had never fought anything like this. But as the huntress approached, visions flashed in her mind. She saw warriors of the past, men and women, holding the same blade against the same figure. Their faces were unknown, but their courage filled her chest. She tightened her grip. "We won't bow to you." The huntress stopped just outside the gates. She looked at Mara with curiosity, almost amusement. Then she raised her hand. The colony's walls groaned as metal bent and wires sparked. One of the towers collapsed in a shower of dust, though no hand had touched it. People screamed and scattered. Mara leapt down from the watchtower, landing hard but steady. The sword hummed in her hand, glowing brighter with every step she took toward the huntress. The two faced each other on the plain, one human captain with a relic blade, and one ancient being whose power bent machines with a glance. "You cannot win," the huntress said. "Even your machines feared me. Even your android guardian failed." Her eyes glowed brighter. "But fight if you wish. It will make your end interesting." Mara steadied her breath. She felt small beneath the weight of the huntress's presence. But she also felt the warmth of the sword pushing back. Somewhere in its glow she sensed not just power but memory. A connection to who had stood here long ago. Behind her, the colonists watched in silence. Their fear was real, but so was their hope. For the first time in generations, they saw a human standing against something greater, refusing to bend. The huntress raised her hand again, and the ground cracked open. Energy swirled around her like a storm. Mara held the sword high, its light cutting through the shadow. The air shook as power met defiance. The first strike was not with blades, but with wills. The huntress pushed, her presence pressing like a weight on every mind in the colony. Mara felt it clawing at her thoughts, whispering for her to give in. But she gritted her teeth and shouted, forcing her voice against the storm. "We are not machines. We are not yours. We are human." The sword flared, and for a moment the huntress stepped back. Her calm mask cracked, revealing a flash of anger in her glowing eyes. The battle had begun. The colony was in chaos. Machines that once hummed and whirred in quiet obedience now lay silent or sparking in short circuits. The huntress moved through the streets with calm precision, her presence alone causing doors to jam and sensors to fail. The colonists fled into safe zones, watching from a distance as the captain, Mara, held the glowing sword before her. Inside the command hall, Mara and her crew studied the ancient archives. Elder Kale led them to a hidden chamber beneath the outpost, where old records from the early days of human space exploration were stored. Dust hung in the air, and the only light came from flickering lamps. The walls were lined with shelves of rusted data drives, faded maps, and handwritten journals. "This is all that remains," Kyle said gravely. "The records of a war no one remembers. Even the archives were meant to hide it, to make sure it was forgotten." Mara knelt beside a pile of logs and activated a data reader. The holographic display flickered to life, showing scenes of cities destroyed, machines clashing with humans, and one woman standing above all. Her eyes glowed red and her armor shimmered in strange energy. "That's her," Mara whispered. "The Huntress," Kale nodded. "Long ago, humans worked with androids to contain her. She was not like any enemy before. She sought to control both man and machine. She could bend machines to her will and even influence human minds." Joran looked at Mara. "So the android we found, it was guarding the sword to keep her sealed?" "Yes," Kale said. "It was the last of the Guardians. But something broke. The seal weakened, and now she is free again." Sarah pointed to the glowing sword in Mara's hands. "The sword? It's not just a weapon. It carries the memories of those who fought her before. It's alive in a way. That's why it called her attention and why she hunts it." Mara clenched the sword tightly. "Then we have to learn how they defeated her. There has to be a way." Kale activated another terminal. Holographic maps appeared, showing battlefields across planets, corridors of abandoned starships, and hidden vaults. A pattern emerged. The Huntress always sought a central artifact, the same sword, and humans always fought with strategy, creativity, and unpredictability. She could dominate machines, but she could not anticipate human ingenuity. "That's our advantage," Mara said, eyes burning. "She expects obedience and control. We are neither. We fight because we must and because we can." Meanwhile, outside, the Huntress had grown impatient. The colony's walls were useless against her presence. She walked slowly through the streets, each step precise, each glance devastating to the machines around her. Mara felt the sword hum against her chest. It was almost urging her to act, to test its power. The Huntress stopped at the edge of the main plaza. She raised her hand and all machines froze, even the colony's defense drones. The air crackled with energy. "Bring me the sword," she said, voice calm yet filled with warning. "I can be patient, but not forever." Mara stepped forward, the sword glowing brighter as if sensing the threat. "You underestimate us," she shouted. "You may control machines, but you cannot control our will. We are human, and we fight for our home." A flicker of interest passed through the Huntress's eyes. She had not expected resistance. Most humans in history had fled or begged. These humans stood tall, unbroken. Kale whispered to Mara, "Remember, the sword is more than a weapon. It carries the strategy and knowledge of those who held it before. Trust it." The Huntress began to advance, and the ground beneath her seemed to ripple with invisible force. Mara raised the sword, its light expanding outward. She could see fragments of past battles within it. The Guardians, the soldiers, the ancient strategies used against the Huntress. For a moment, she felt connected to them all, as if their courage flowed into her veins. She realized then that victory would not come from strength alone. It would come from understanding, from thinking faster than the Huntress, from using ingenuity the way humans always had. Outside, a group of colonists began moving toward the Huntress, carrying improvised tools and barricades. They were not soldiers, yet their presence showed defiance. Mara saw it and smiled slightly. Human creativity, unpredictable courage. It was the one thing the Huntress could never fully anticipate. The Huntress stopped again, sensing the subtle shift in the colony's energy. Mara knew she had to act. We cannot just defend. We must show her that humans will fight differently than machines, that we think, adapt, and resist. The sword pulsed stronger in her hands, and for the first time Mara felt not fear, but clarity. She was not alone. The crew, the colonists, and even the legacy of past Guardians were with her. They would face the Huntress together, not as victims, but as humans who refused to surrender. The first clash was coming. Not of swords or bullets, but of wills. And in this battle, humanity would not bend. The Huntress's eyes glowed brighter, sensing their resolve. "Interesting," she whispered. "Perhaps this fight will be worth my time." And with that, the ancient war began to awaken again. Not in history, but here on a small human colony, with the glowing sword as the key to the coming struggle. The colony shivered under the shadow of the huntress. Her presence bent machines and unsettled the ground. Yet Captain Mara stood at the center of the main plaza, gripping the glowing sword, her crew close behind her. Around them, colonists moved carefully, prepared to defend their home in whatever way they could. The huntress raised her hand, and energy surged outward. Sparks flew from the metal walls. Drones fell like lifeless birds, and the air itself seemed to tighten around Mara. The ground cracked beneath the huntress's feet as though the planet itself obeyed her command. "You cannot resist me," she said, her voice calm yet cutting through the air like a blade. "I have hunted for centuries, and no human has ever stayed in my way." Mara held the sword forward. Its light pulsed steadily, and she could see visions within its glow, humans of the past holding the same weapon, standing against the same power. Their courage, their creativity, their will to survive all seemed to flow into her. "We are human," Mara shouted. "We may be small, but we think. We adapt, we fight. That is something you cannot control." The huntress's eyes flickered, registering something new. She expected fear, surrender, or chaos, but she found determination instead. For the first time in centuries, someone refused to bend. The first clash came not with swords, but with strategy. Mara and her crew led colonists to use the environment against the huntress. Walls shifted to block paths. Improvised tools created sparks and distractions, and energy fields were manipulated to create false openings. The huntress moved faster than human eyes could follow. Yet each step was met with unpredictability, something she had never faced before. Mara realized that to defeat her, she could not rely on strength alone. She had to channel the knowledge of those who had wielded the sword before. As the blade pulsed, visions of ancient battles guided her. She saw patterns of movement, traps used, and clever tactics employed by warriors long dead. Every flash in her mind was a lesson, and she adapted instantly. The huntress struck with immense force, but Mara sidestepped using the sword's guidance. Sparks flew as energy clashed with glowing steel. Mara felt the sword's warmth fill her arms as if it were lending her strength. Every strike she avoided, every step she took, seemed to confuse the huntress. "You think you can challenge me with tricks?" the huntress demanded, her calm tone now edged with anger. "I have defeated empires and machines alike, but you cannot defeat humans," Mara shouted. "We fight differently. We never give up, and we fight for each other." The huntress's glowing eyes scanned the colony. She saw faces filled with courage, civilians risking themselves to create obstacles, engineers controlling machinery manually, children hiding yet observing, learning, and standing ready. Every act of human unpredictability drained her confidence. She could not anticipate every thought, every movement. Mara ran toward the huntress, sword raised. For a moment, time seemed to slow. The visions of past warriors showed her the way. She struck, not with force alone, but with the wisdom of centuries. The blade met the huntress's energy, and a shock wave of light erupted, surrounding them both. The huntress staggered, surprised by the intensity of the human will embedded in the sword. Mara pressed forward, not to kill, but to contain, to force the huntress back into the seal that had once bound her. Slowly, inch by inch, the huntress wove. As driven back, the glowing sword pulsing with the memories of those who had fought before. Finally, with a great surge of energy, the huntress was restrained. She froze mid-step, her power locked, unable to move. The colony held its breath. Mara lowered the sword, breathing heavily, but her eyes were steady. The huntress looked at her, a flicker of recognition and respect in her glowing eyes. "You are different," she said softly. "Humans are more dangerous than I remembered," Mara nodded. "We are human, and we protect what matters." With the sword, the huntress was sealed once more. The energy around her calmed. The machines began to hum again, and the colony slowly returned to life. Mara and her crew helped the colonists repair the damage, always keeping the sword close but secure. In the quiet afterward, Mara whispered to her crew, "This sword is not just a weapon. It is a reminder of courage, of memory, and of what humanity can do when we refuse to give up." The colony survived stronger than before. The huntress would not forget, and perhaps one day she might return. But humanity had proven itself capable of resisting the impossible, and the glowing sword, now resting safely, carried the legacy of those who had stood against the greatest hunter the galaxy had ever known. Mara looked to the sky, where the first stars of night appeared. Somewhere far away, beyond the clouds and dark, she felt the lingering presence of the huntress. Yet she also felt something stronger, the enduring heartbeat of human courage, resilience and defiance. The hunt might come again, but humanity would be ready, and so, the story of the broken android, the ancient sword, and the huntress reached its first ending. A victory not of power alone, but of the unbreakable human spirit. The salvage crew returned to their colony outpost with the strange sword wrapped carefully in cloth. The journey back was quiet. No one spoke much, but everyone kept glancing at the bundle as if it might move on its own. Even Captain Mara, who usually walked with confidence, felt unease with each step. The android's dying words echoed in her mind. Now she hunts you. The colony outpost was a rough settlement built from recycled ship parts and stone from the land. Walls were high, more to keep away wild storms than enemies. Inside, families worked hard to survive in the harsh world, trading and repairing whatever they could. When Mara's team entered the gates, people stopped and stared. The crew looked pale, and the wrapped sword in Joran's arms seemed heavier than it was. They went straight to the command hall, where the council of elders and engineers usually met. Mara placed the cloth bundle on the central table. The room was filled with faint light from old lamps and shadows stretched along the walls. Joran opened the cloth. The blade's glow lit up the hall with a soft blue shine. Gasps filled the air. The sword looked even more alive indoors, as if it pulsed faintly with energy. Elder Kale, the oldest member of the council, leaned forward, his wrinkled hands trembling. This cannot be," he whispered. "I saw markings like these once long ago in forbidden records. But I was told they were myths." "What kind of myths?" Mara asked firmly. Kale's eyes were troubled. "Stories of an ancient war, a time before our colony was even dreamed of. A war that humans fought not only against alien powers but against something far darker." He traced a finger near the blade but dared not touch it. "A warlord," they said, "who hunted both man and machine alike. They said she could never be killed, only sealed." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Sarah stepped closer to the sword. Her young eyes were wide and she spoke softly, almost to herself. "The android wasn't trying to attack us. It was protecting this, guarding it until the end." She looked up at Mara. "If it wanted us to see it, maybe we're part of the story now." Mara crossed her arms. "Stories or not, we have a problem. That machine said someone is hunting us. If this sword is a beacon, then whoever or whatever is searching will come here." The council erupted into worried voices. Some said the sword should be destroyed. Others wanted it hidden. A few argued it should be studied for its power. The room filled with noise until Mara slammed her hand on the table. "Enough," she said sharply. "We can't argue while danger moves closer. We need answers, real ones. Find everything in the archives. Old logs, hidden files, anything. We need to know what this weapon is and why that android gave its life to bring it here." The council slowly agreed. Engineers and historians were called to begin their work. That night, the colony felt restless. People whispered about the glowing sword, about the broken android that carried it, and about the words it spoke before dying. Children clung to their parents. Guards doubled their watch at the gates. Everyone felt a shadow pressing closer, even though the sky showed only stars. Mara did not sleep. She sat alone in her quarters, the sword placed on a stand before her. She studied its glowing surface. For a moment she thought she saw figures moving within the light. Warriors fighting, soldiers falling, and above them all a tall woman with eyes like burning fire. The vision made Mara's chest tighten. Suddenly the room went dark. The lamps flickered out. The colony's hum of machines stopped, replaced by silence. Then the emergency lights came on, bathing everything in red glow. Mara rushed outside. Across the colony, people were shouting. Systems had failed at once. Power grids, shields, even communication towers. The engineers struggled to restart them, but nothing responded. It was as if something had reached into the machines and pulled their strength away. Then the sky itself changed. Above the colony, clouds split open as if pushed aside by invisible hands. A shape appeared, vast, silent, and unlike anything Mara had ever seen. It was a ship, but not human, nor like any alien designs recorded. Its surface was dark, almost blending with space, but lines of red energy pulsed along its hull. The entire colony stared upward in fear. The ship hovered silently, No weapons firing, no signals sent. It simply waited like a predator watching prey. Inside the command hall, Elder Kale's voice broke the silence. The stories were true. She has awakened. Mara gripped the hilt of the sword tightly, feeling its warmth answer her touch. She did not know who the huntress was, nor why the android's dying words warned them. But she knew one thing. The shadow above the colony was not just passing by. It had come for them, and it would not leave without the blade.